record. Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 377 for July 29th, 2020. My name is Russell Frost and I am your host this week for our adventure into advanced tech mobility and sustainable energy. And with me as always, the finest panel in the world. Let's introduce everyone and get this show on the road. First and foremost, my co-host, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hey everybody, welcome to the latter days of July 2020, which for some weird reason brings in hockey. So as though 2020 is not weird enough, we have hockey in July going into August.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I have to introduce him next because he's the man that is fully branded himself, even though his background isn't branded, although it was before the show, Mr. Casey Green.
Hey, everybody. Having the world's quietest birthday.
Happy
birthday, Casey.
Thank
Is
you.
it your birthday today?
Today?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
It's the
I
birthday
bet you're-
show.
The birthday
I bet
fest.
you didn't turn 59 this year, though.
I did not turn 59 this year.
I don't
How do I
know.
make it
Have you
59?
counted in dog years?
Admit that.
It just wouldn't even.
What
you
is
know
that in Celsius, Mark?
How old is that Canadian?
I won't even tell you how many Diet Pepsi jokes I've been making this week, and no one gets it. Kimberly looks at me like the dog that's heard a new noise she's never heard before, and I'm like, it's a funny thing, trust me. Anyway, speaking of a person who always gets it, she is our friend in Northern California, Georgia McKenzie.
La. Hey, everybody.
Georgia, you've been bowling?
No. I've been sitting at this desk way too dang long, and I got to use my ergo stuff.
I'm sorry, I know that, but I always have to point that out.
Oh, it was a dad joke. I forgot. My bad. Strictly my bad.
Up next, our friend in the Pacific Northwest, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello, everybody. Hey, if you like this show, then you'll probably want to check out Transport Treehouse. Russell just did an interview with Kitty Adams, and I've worked with her on a couple projects. She is awesome. So go give that a watch on our YouTube channel, which is what, Russell?
YouTube.com/What Drives Us. And Patrick, thank you. It's on my list. I was going to mention it after the intros, but since you did, yeah, Chelsea and I have a new show where we're interviewing movers and shakers in the industry. It's Infrastructure Week.
Hey.
Oh, that's always bad.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's
I really
a political
like her-
joke.
Yeah, the way that she does things, it's such a smart system. Without a middleman, you can actually deliver more value. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, definitely check it out.
I'd never met Kitty before, and a blast talking to her and listening to her and Chelsea talk. We have another new show that's going to be posted in the next couple of days, and a third new show that'll be posted a few days after that. All for our Infrastructure Week series. Much more to come. So do keep an eye out on the What Drives Us page for Transport Treehouse.
And I have to say that if you want to make sure and be notified when things like that come out, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please take half a second. It's really all it's going to take. Click that subscribe button and sign up for notifications. So is it still a bell? If you see a
Ring
bell
the
there,
bell.
click the bell.
Thank you so much. And my apologies to the remaining two panelists who haven't been introduced yet. Let's introduce them now. Our friend in the Great White North with the best lighting of the show, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am living the dream just outside of the hockey bubble here near Toronto, Ontario.
And you know what? Excuse me for violating my own stricture before the show, but I happened to be by the Tesla service center, which is a quarter mile from my house. They had an entire dumpster full of Tesla wheels.
Oh, wow.
What?
And it was at that moment that I thought, oh my God, I could make Mark so jealous. I could build an entire wall of Tesla wheels and he would just be insane. Yeah, an entire 40-yard, whatever the big dumpster
Why?
full of wheels.
Why?
So now we know what to expect next week behind
New
Russell.
wheels. Well, that and new wheels at the factory.
I was just gonna, I was gonna say, I also want to pump my new secondhand Tesla wheel store on eBay.
Well,
They're only $10 each.
Did they discard them because they were warped, or?
I was driving by. I have no clue. Let's assume, foolishly or
Imagine if there's
otherwise,
a dumpster, they're not very good.
there probably is a problem with them. Yeah, let's just assume that. Although I probably could have pieced together a couple of Model 3s from what I saw in the trash bin. So no slap at Tesla, although I am certainly willing to do that. Last and not least, our friend, the owner and founder of Boulder Hybrids on the Front Range in Boulder, Colorado, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Glad to be back, and Russell just like saying the Front Range, so he sounds like a local.
You totally nailed me. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, just getting caught up reading the chat. We have a big show tonight. We have lots of news. I wanted to mention once again, Patrick, thank you for mentioning Transport Treehouse. It's the brand new What Drives This show. That features Chelsea Sexton and I, mostly Chelsea. I'm just a prop, really. I just intro the show. But I try and keep up, but featuring lots of really cool people in the business like Kitty Adams. And we'll have much, much more for that soon. So if you're not a subscriber, do that and check in on the notifications as well. Also, we're in the middle of a fundraiser, which you can help for $1, a couple of bucks maybe. Make a donation. We would definitely appreciate that. You can find that link on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/What Drives Us, or at What Drives Us on Twitter. They're both pinned to the top. And of course, we'll be pummeling you on our shows and on that until we hit our goal. And if we don't hit our goal, we'll be pummeling you forever.
You can go to ebay.com/What Drives Us Tesla Wheels.
Really, that should have been the fundraiser, right? Is buy some wheels and
Pay an extra $100 to get them autographed.
By
Of course,
who?
they're
That's true. By us.
by
legally unsafe
By What
wheels.
Drives Us.
But,
Yes.
I'm just wondering if I had a sample of Elon's signature, because I'll look for that. Let's go to our first story. Oddly enough, we're going to Tony Schaefer.
And I want to first say that this is one of my favorite sources in all the world. And if there are, I think I can name the long-term What Drives Us listeners on one hand, and maybe I can think of 3 right off the top of my head. And the 3 of you know that at least once a year we go to the South China Morning Post for a news article. It's just funny for me to think that we go to the South China Morning Post. But so this is from Hong Kong, and it's a taxi distributor who is upset because the Hong Kong Path to Green Transportation does not specify the inclusion of hybrids in their path towards green transportation. And they're actually holding out until they can bring 100% battery electric vehicles. And his concern is taxi cabs. So according to their path towards green transportation, they're holding out on implementing for replacing taxi cabs until they can replace them with all battery electric vehicles. And so here is his role is that he is the head of the company that supplies taxi cabs, and his company accounts for 98% of the 18,000 cabs in Hong Kong. And he's concerned that if they wait until, and I believe the date that was given was as far out as 2050 before they believe there will be enough battery electric vehicles to replace all the internal combustion engine taxi cabs. He's like, what? So the pedestrians and the city is going to suffer and choke through internal combustion engine taxis until battery electric vehicles are rolled out? Why not just implement hybrids now? And this is not just in Hong Kong and not just with taxis, but technology in general. And we've often addressed this, that people are waiting for the silver bullet. And they forget that there might not be a perfect silver bullet. There might be something in between where we are now and where we want to be. And we should be willing to take the incremental steps to make the incremental improvements, knowing that the perfect solution is coming. It's just maybe not here right now. And we should take the solution that's in front of us. And that's his argument. His argument is that they should expand the path to include hybrids so they could start putting hybrids on the road now and reduce the emissions. You know, taxi cabs sit and idle. So if you have a hybrid, then they'll idle less. So why don't we just put these on the streets? I was shocked, honestly, when I read that they didn't account for hybrids in their pathway towards green transportation. Everyone, what do you think?
Well, the hybrids are going to last a long time, so they're never going to go away. If you allow that half step, you're not going to get what you want, which is the batteries, which is what China is not incentivizing.
Well, but taxi cabs get a ton of use. So
They do.
the average taxi probably gets retired after about 5 years. And that might, in 5 years, there might be viable electric replacement options. But do we
But-
want another 5 years of, regular ICE cars?
I see
Why
where you're
didn't they
coming
start
from, but
using hybrids 10 years ago?
exactly. Especially
Right.
we've seen EV taxis worldwide. It's not like you don't spend more on your taxis to begin with. It's because they are commercial vehicles that have to last.
I mean,
Well,
they could
we've seen
mandate it. Like
some.
San Francisco's had hybrid taxis only forever.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
BS to say that battery electric vehicles won't be viable for taxis until 2050. That's just him trying to make space to do he's just saying that because he doesn't want to do battery electric and he's making an excuse. BS.
Yep. I mean, if they
Well-
can do it in Finland, Norway, the U.S., I mean, yeah, those are more.
Well, but you're talking some, and Finland and Norway is a considerably smaller population than the US and Hong Kong. You're talking about some electric vehicles. Their pathway is 100% electric vehicles, all or nothing, literally binary.
Our country is doing the same. The hybrid subsidy faded out over 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, we got our battery phase in started 10 years ago.
So you're saying there are no hybrid taxis allowed in the United States?
That's not the case, but they're not being incentivized to bring out a hybrid taxi. They're being incentivized to bring out a battery taxi, unless it's the
Okay.
Tesla, because then there's no more money for that.
I do have to say that I don't see how an incremental step is bad here. If the incremental step
bad.
is either we wait for 30 years
That's
and
the
we
part
use ICE vehicles.
That's the false argument. There is no
Yeah.
wait 30 years.
You don't have to wait.
Well, I'm not arguing that you have to wait 30 years for good battery electric taxis. That's not my argument. But
I mean,
I
all
mean,
they'd have to do is
Chi-
do a stepped incentive. If you get a
Yeah.
hybrid, you get this much. If you buy an EV, you get this much.
You can
And
do that, but
Yeah.
but China is outside the U.S. is the EV capital of the world. They make the most diverse amount of totally acceptable vehicles, and they import them from Germany, the U.S., everywhere else. It's not like they
Right.
have a
That's
choice.
like the
Yeah.
point that you're talking about. He feels 9 years to hit the target. So do we wait 9 years or do we allow for hybrids? And I think it's a fair question that if you're going to wait 9 years, what's the point of having 9 years worth of pollution out on the streets?
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, you can give them a medallion, but don't have to pay them extra to help them change it out either to go hybrid.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
fine
I'm
with
fine
that.
with that.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not saying
I mean-
incentivize.
I know in Denver, there's no mandate you have to drive hybrids, but 90% of the taxis are hybrids because the drivers have realized at the end of the day, there's more money in their pocket by driving a hybrid.
That's right.
Exactly.
And everybody else benefits, even though the
Yeah,
taxi drivers are
indirectly.
making more money.
And
Interestingly enough,
unfortunately, all taxi drivers care about is money. They don't care about the
Right.
environment.
I mean, right, which is horrible, but I get it.
And the same thing applies with EVs. The fuel is yet again even cheaper. And there's an upfront cost, but there's
But in
candy
Hong Kong,
and
how
cherry
many
and
places
Geely
are
and
there
all
where you
kinds of.
can
and the
park
maintenance
in
is
a
lower.
charging place? Like,
let me assume that I can take over the brain of everyone on this show right now. Not one of these people here that you see is arguing that EVs are bad and hybrids are better.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
let's just make that clear. No one's saying that,
Mhm.
wow, well, EV, it's just saying that if the choice is ICE or waiting years for battery, hybrids as a stopgap solution might be acceptable.
Raise your hand if you didn't have a hybrid and you're on this panel.
One.
Yeah, but you have an EV.
Yeah, you went.
You just went straight to the
straight
point.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of us went
right.
hybrid then EV.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Great story, Tony.
Yeah,
Let's
definitely.
let's move on since we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we have another electrified mass transit story submitted this week for acknowledgement by both Casey and Georgia. Georgia's going to do the intro here.
Okay, so this is pretty cool. Electric Brands in Germany has come up with a new vehicle, a modular vehicle, which I guess means it's like IKEA, but VW bus. And that's the e-Bussy. This is also a great moment to understand that one should Google the name and find out what it means in potentially a very large market, so you don't name something you want to sell in America the e-Bussy, because I'm gonna let you guys figure out that one. You just go to Urban Dictionary and Google
I'm
Bussy for
Googling it
yourself,
now.
because this
I'm
is
so
a
looking.
family show. Maybe a dysfunctional family, but we have standards, sir, madam, non-binary. All right, if I may borrow the screen, sir, Mr. Frost.
Am I? That's
Yeah.
right. I have to. I'm
Turn it on.
sorry. I don't. It just automatically, for some reason, it won't. Okay, there you go.
Oh my God! I just Googled this.
Sorry,
Okay.
guys. That was hilarious. Sorry. All right, so this is the e-Bussy. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of a fan here. I mean, I'm looking at it. It's a little weird. Sure, it looks like a duck, or you bought it for your Playmates set for your toddler,
Mhm.
but it kind of appeals to me. I don't know why. I guess I'm childish. Here you go. You can make it be a flatbed truck. You can build
That
it
thing's
up.
adorable.
Yeah.
It is the cutest freaking thing. It's like a cute
It's
little.
kind of like
got
a modern
personality.
version of an 80s van again.
Mhm.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Now-
of the crate cars when I saw it. The little trucks that are like nearly impossible to destroy once you bolted them together.
And
Come
you
on a flat
can,
crate.
you can print
Hey,
panels
look at
off
that.
on your 3D printer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And the other
In
thing that I
fact, I
noticed,
think it is a free 3D printer.
yeah. The other thing that I noticed that I really enjoyed was it uses those scooter batteries, like the ones we saw in India and China, where you can take the modules out, put them on the rack, and then swap them in for
Yeah.
fresh ones.
Yes.
That's a
Now,
cool
what's
idea.
super
Like
cool about
Gogoro,
this-
I think was the company.
Yeah.
And then the
It's got
price.
an off-road version. It's got the raised suspension. It can go up to 200 kilometers, 124
But
miles.
is it
But
a
seriously,
real car? Like, will
Yeah,
pass,
it can seat what,
pass
6,
tests?
8?
well, all you have to do is push it back, and then the internal motor revs up, and then you let it go, and it flies.
Right.
I heard there's an option for a big windy thing you can put on
Right.
the back.
Yeah.
Just on the back.
About every 5 years, you replace the rubber band, and I think you're good.
But it starts at $18,000, and you
Yeah.
can option it all the way up to 33 with the right
What?
specs. Yeah,
Why
Yep.
can't I have
Yep.
one now?
you can.
I know.
Right.
I seriously want one. I
Yeah.
was going to play the video for you, but yeah,
And-
18,273. That is an amazing price. And
You
once
can
you
play it
do
on mute.
the top of the line off-roading e-Bussy camper variant, that is what takes you up to that serious car territory of 33. I'm going to say probably 33 to 35K once you get everything done. But
You're right. And the
Yeah.
30 kilowatt hour battery gives you 373 miles.
that's right.
Boom.
And it's drive-by wire, so you can
That seems
actually
optimistic to me.
It
You know, when
probably
we're
is on
all
the European
living
cycle.
in vans down by the river,
Okay, so
this is probably the
Yes.
one you want to
so
have.
because it is a
Right.
VW van, the engineers were smoking a little too much weed coming out with those statistics.
Okay.
So because it's
350
drive-by-wire, you
plus.
can actually physically slide the steering and pedals to the middle or to the right. So you can have right-hand drive or center drive,
Ah.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
depending on how you've configured it.
Yeah, so that is one thing that with this, it's a skateboard design, and Georgia just showed us a whole bunch of different ways it could be laid out. I think that we haven't even scratched the surface yet on just new ways that vehicles can be designed and new looks they can have. When you have a skateboard design and just any designer freedom up on top, yeah. So the next 10 years are going to be. Well, we should see some really interesting things. Maybe the Simpsons mobile.
Yeah. And you know, the sad part is I remember reading an article in probably like Scientific American or Popular Mechanics, the dream of skateboard electric vehicles and being able to just drop new bodies on it. And
High-wire.
I've been disappointed that we haven't had this yet.
right?
Yep.
It's I like the looks of it. Sadly, we're not going to see this until 2021, but I think I'll hang out and see what the.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
happens when it
predict
comes to
that
the
it'll be
market.
nowhere near 18,000 ships.
Probably not the first ones, yeah. But you know what you could do, since the thing does have those swap batteries, put the battery swap next to the taxi stand, put the taxi body on it, ship that sucker to China.
Ship to Hong Kong.
There you go.
I don't think
Problem
so.
solved. Well done.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Next
Next up, world
cancer.
hunger.
Yep.
I'm waiting.
That's it.
Okay, fine. Well, let's go to our next story, to Casey, about another electric car company reaching out, shall we say.
Reaching out. So you all have probably heard that Tesla has open source patents. And you might even remember that they once partnered with Daimler and Toyota. Well, somebody got Elon tweeting again. And
No.
he says, and I'll quote him here, Tesla is open to licensing and supplying powertrains and batteries. Oh, sorry. Tesla's open to licensing software and supplying powertrains and batteries. So notice the added software part. That was never something that they did before. We're trying to accelerate sustainable energy and not crush competitors.
You know,
And then-
VW could probably buy some software from Tesla right about
VW
now.
could buy some software.
VW could hack some software from Tesla.
Yeah.
So then somebody further eggs him on, and he says, they ask Elon, they say, software as in autopilot, question mark? And Elon replies, just sure. So autopilot as a service.
So the one thing I love about his initial tweet is he says, we're just trying to accelerate sustainable energy, not crush competitors. Sort of a humble brag.
Yeah, it is.
Just wanted to,
This is perfect. Like Paul said with the Volkswagen, they seem to can't get the software for the ID3 together, and they're getting ready to pay massive fines because of it. This is an option.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. If you have good technology, you can license it or sell it to your competitors. Most of you know Toyota has an electronics company, Denso, and they sell Denso electronics to Subaru, to Mazda, Nissan, all the other Japanese car companies buy Denso stuff because they can buy it cheaper than they can build it themselves.
Yep, my Honda Civic
And it
Hybrid has
doesn't say
Denso parts.
Toyota, it's a separate company. So if you see a Denso part in a Subaru, well, who's this Denso company? It doesn't say Toyota because Subaru probably doesn't want Toyota parts in their cars.
Yeah,
right.
just like AC Delco.
Right, yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get the economies of scale, so that makes them more affordable for everybody.
Yep. And then the beauty of
And then the
software is
same
it doesn't
part
have,
is available across different product lines, so replacement's easy, like I said, economies of scale.
exactly. And then the beauty of software is it doesn't have to say Tesla on it. Just like that was definitely a huge part of why you don't see anybody else using the supercharger network yet. Is everyone says Tesla in bright red letters. There's other stuff that goes in there, like they might not want to pay the on-ramp fee or whatever else. But the other thing is you've got your brand new customer pulling up to something that says Tesla. Whereas if the software is in there, it doesn't have to say that. It can say Bob's Car Builder instead.
Right. And it could be like the
Elon
open
where?
source model.
Yeah, Elon
You
where.
know,
Elon.
you have the like Linux, or other things. You have the open source model where, maybe they're licensing the source code, but now they can add proprietary stuff on top of it.
Right. Like Android.
Microsoft Windows 10. Windows is so Linux, it's ridiculous. But try convincing a hardcore Microsoft user of that.
Yeah. And then with Autopilot, literally all they have to do is put a compatible camera and sensing system on it. And now everybody can share in whatever advancements they get. Like, is this thing every week they're learning something new? So
Right.
now millions of cars from across the spectrum can be getting better rather than just one manufacturer.
Yeah. Lift all boats. I mean, it certainly sounds like the goal is to raise all boats here.
There you go. Well, good for Elon and Tesla. We'll see who takes him up on that deal. It'll be very
Hopefully more than the last
interesting.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. We go to our next story about, yet another company working on battery electric vehicles. And I'm not going to say it because I like the way Mark says it better. Mark?
Hyundai has come up with a revelation of sorts. They, of course, watching their market share, and they've discovered that there's another EV company that's beginning to eat their lunch. And they weren't too concerned about this other company a while ago. An insider told Reuters that the company had no real concern about Tesla in the past, as the Silicon Valley company, in their mind, focused on premium, expensive cars. But since the launch of the Model 3, the threat has become a lot more real. And what they've found is that people are doing, as we call in the industry now, the Tesla stretch, where people are allocating more funds to purchase the Tesla as opposed to getting the regular car that they might have done in the past to get to the aspirational car that they want. So the Hyundai company is noticing that some sales are they're losing some of that market share that they expected to have. And with that realization, they have decided that they're going to add 2 additional electric car lines that will be used in South Korea to produce electric vehicles. One that will be kicking off at the beginning of next year, and a second one to be in play by 2024. So in their calculation, they don't want to be left out in the cold and not have and lose these customers forever. They want to have the supply of the vehicles ready for consumers to buy their product. And like others who have now started to scramble to produce electric vehicles, they are discovering there are a couple of roadblocks to ramping up production. And of course, one of those items is batteries. And with GM and Volkswagen and others all trying to get battery supply locked down for their vehicles, they're starting to realize that market is a little bit oversaturated, and they're having a tough time getting allocation for batteries for those new lines. So it's something that we've seen brewing for quite a long time, and now the realization is starting to come true for some car companies that, you know what, we might have waited a little bit too long, or we don't have the internal resources to build exactly what we need when we need. We're kind of behind the 8 ball in some of these cases, and that's certainly what this story from Inside EVs kind of points at.
Was there any hint of if they're going to go sort of low to mid market or do like a high-end Genesis EV?
They didn't talk anything about what comes out on the production line, just that it was going to be an EV. And of course, they're not commenting directly about specifics about it, because this was basically, some of the story was leaked from an insider that was talking to the reporter.
I think they would be very smart to do the Kona and the Niro. Was it the Kia Niro or the Hyundai Kona? Both of them available in EVs right now. They could, since they already have the established vehicles, they could just add lines, and they could check those things out. They're very affordable and they are amazingly
They're
good
decent cars. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and extremely efficient in kilowatts per mile or miles per kilowatt hour or whatever.
Yeah,
You think I
they-
would
they
know
are.
this, but yeah,
You can do it both ways.
Well,
You
it's
don't know
just-
anything about
it's just
fuel
such a-
efficient driving, Tony.
right.
Well, it just
You're the wrong
seems like
host.
such a textbook case of a large company just thinking, I don't have to pay any attention to what's happening around me.
Right.
They're not going to affect me. And I'm kind of concerned that they may have missed a good window of opportunity.
It's kind of like
Because
Kodak in the
Tesla-
80s.
I was about to say the Kodak
digital
effect. Yeah.
cameras.
Mhm.
Well, who needs a digital camera? Film
We're
will always.
gonna
Even though
film
they invented
forever.
it.
Well,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
and it's a good move. I just hope it's not a too late move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
same
you know,
here.
it's never too late. Every,
When
I've
you're
said
out of
this,
business, it's too late.
Well,
Yes.
when you're out of business, but we know they're not out of business right now. But
Right.
it's one of these things that even if they had done something a month ago or 2 months ago, everyone, we would still be able to say, I wish they'd done this sooner. So, I feel that it's, only when you're out of business is it too late. The fact that they did have this wake up moment, and then hopefully they have this wake up moment, they add some lines, they start pumping out EVs and they're selling out. Maybe that will cause a wake up moment to the other major manufacturers, Toyota, and start actually making honest to goodness electric vehicles like we know you can and you should have been doing 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
exactly. When Hyundai had the Tucson fuel cell vehicle, we talked about that. This was over a year ago on this show, and at that point we were saying it makes absolutely no sense. Fuel cell vehicles might work
Make
like if
absolutely
it's
no sense.
yeah, as a passenger vehicle, it makes no sense. If you have like a ferry line and it goes from here to there, and you can put fueling stations where you need them because it's on a locked fixed path, great. Maybe like from the warehouse to the dock for a large
Or maybe a transit company.
yeah. So there are a few use cases where it works. Passenger vehicles, if in the U.S. you need 100,000 fueling stations today for gasoline, and why do you think it would need to be any fewer for something like hydrogen fuel? That's what the market has said. We need to be convenient for fill-ups, and so that's just an impossible place to start. And so the automakers are just assuming that fueling is someone else's problem. And unless you have an entire ecosystem, you don't have a product.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how all of these companies that were here and had almost everything solved in the late 90s, Hyundai, General Motors, Toyota, everybody, they all had EVs running around. Ford, Chrysler even had a van.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened, Casey, is they were not serious because it was just a compliance card to get them by a rule. That's why it's failed, because they were just trying to get by a rule that was implemented by CARB.
There's an entire documentary dedicated to answering that question. And since we mentioned friend of the show, Chelsea Sexton, earlier, she's one of the stars of Who Killed the Electric Car. And it's free on YouTube. Y'all should go check it out.
If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Yes.
But what I'm getting at is it's not like they don't know how to do it. And yes, do watch those. They're great. And read the books.
I'll give you a reason. You may not like it, but I'll give you the reason.
Everybody retire?
No. I mean, look at Tesla. Kudos to Tesla for realizing that if you sell the product and you deploy everything people need for that product, well, except for service, charging network and yada, yada, they get it, right? Tesla got it.
Yeah.
And that's why there's Tesla owners on this show. Part of the reason is, yeah, I know, really who. Part of that, though, is because of that network, right? Patrick had a Leaf. He could have bought another Nissan. He bought a Tesla for probably multiple reasons. But here's the thing. The car companies, the gas car companies, haven't been making EVs because they don't want to pay for the infrastructure. They've never paid for the infrastructure for ICE cars. They don't pay for gas stations. They don't pay for service stations. They have service stations in their dealerships that make tons of money. Ask Paul about that. But and the government has been completely hands-off for the most part. I mean, our attempts to encourage it have been flaccid and tedious and ineffective compared to other nations. Norway, that have aggressively, Germany, that aggressively, you could get a Renault Zoe in Germany for effectively nothing. Okay, as just a regular person, you can, because of the subsidies in Germany, because the German government sees that there's an advantage to having more people drive electric. Our
In
government
cities like
hasn't seen that
London,
yet.
where you
Yeah.
can go into the city center with no toll if you have an EV.
Yeah.
You know,
No
a gas
congestion
card's like
charge, yeah.
$30 just to go into town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tesla's only recently become profitable consistently. So how many years were they losing money? And now that was fine for them because they were startup and they were getting capital and investors were willing to take that risk. But if 10 years ago, whoever was in charge of GM at that point said, new change strategy for the next 10 years, we're going to lose money. We're going to stop selling gasoline cars. We're only going to make electric. We're going to build out a great big network of
We'll
refueling
stop building
stations.
pickup trucks.
Right. Yes. And eventually when the batteries get good enough, we'll start building pickups again. But until then, nope. They would have lost their job that day. So
Right,
it was
right.
just something that was not even an option for them at that point because they had an existing business that was profitable that they had to maintain. So now the technology has advanced where they can start making these things profitable, and they need to make that change.
Yeah, but if they had all kept their little side projects going from Honda and everybody else in the 90s, 98, 99, 2000, if they had kept that up, just one car, 1,000 a year, this is the crazy nerds play toy, where would they be today?
I
Tesla
totally
probably
agree.
even
In
took
fact,
off.
so my first electric vehicle was a 98 Chevy S10 electric. And that was the second year of that vehicle. And between the 97 and the 98, they made a few little changes. They made some interior updates. They made changes to the tonneau cover to improve aero to reduce drag. They put just a thin metal or a thin rubber padding between the bed and the truck again to make it more slippery through the air. And so one of the articles that I wrote was if they had just continued to make little changes like that all the way from 97 till now, how great of a vehicle would they have? And unfortunately, they didn't. They quit and they crushed them and they got out and then they fought it legally, and instead
And then
of
they made
just making a
Hummers.
product.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll give you a thumbs up on that, Patrick.
Where's
Next story.
Casey?
Only because we've got some ground to cover. I'll just touch on this briefly. There was an interesting piece in the Washington Post, an op-ed from an author named Ike Brannon, who wrote something that I don't think we talk about enough, but we all sort of, maybe we know, maybe we don't, but it's definitely true. Talking about parking and how we use our streets. And specifically, Mr. Brandon was talking about how it costs in DC $2,000 to $3,000 a year for an off-street parking space. Yet, if you're a resident of DC, you can get an on-street parking permit for $35. There's been other news that I've read that say that in some cities, a parking spot costs the government, costs the citizens of that space as much as $40,000 per spot because of the space it takes up, because of the extra width of the street, because of the maintenance and everything else. So here's something
But
to
a lot of cities, the parking meters generate that much revenue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right now,
San Francisco.
Yeah, right now Portland's charging $500 every 15 minutes because somebody's in their spots.
What?
Yeah, the federal government's fence.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
The uninvited guests.
So
Right.
here's the thing. We talk about unfunded externalities, right? And that was sort of what I was alluding to just a minute ago with ICE cars and EVs and all of that. That we've been supporting privately owned vehicles. Everybody here, everybody watching and listening pays for that. You pay so that somebody else can have free parking in front of their house, in front of their business, in front of their store, wherever they go. You pay for that. You don't have to. We could do it differently. We could design our streets differently. We could have had broader sidewalks. We could have had businesses expanding into the outside. Hey, who's seen pop-up tents in front of businesses in their neighborhood lately? Nobody on the show?
we know
Okay, I
about
see a few
that.
nods.
Yeah.
I have.
all I'm saying is that we could be doing things differently. We just chose not to. And it supported one very small product category and one group of manufacturers, and it wasn't necessarily the right answer.
The part of the article that blows my mind, and it never even occurred to me, was the parking permits are so cheap, like you said, $35, that he says here that there are some people who have 10 or more parking spots. They just buy up those parking spots and they put a car or a vehicle in those parking spots. It's cheaper to put a van in the parking spot and use it for storage than it is to rent a personal storage locker somewhere off site. How ridiculous is that?
Okay, I'll show my
Yeah,
age. Remember the intro to Bosom Buddies? They have their lawn chairs out and they're taking up a parking spot, and they get up to feed the meter and then lay back and start suntanning in the spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's cheap enough to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't need to beat it to death. It's just something to think about, folks. We all pay for this stuff. We don't have to do it that way. We could ask our representatives to do things differently.
Well, and COVID has changed a whole lot of things. So there are we talked about it on this show, there are some cities that are making pedestrian-friendly streets or low traffic. They're only allowing neighborhood traffic in certain areas, so it can't be through streets. So you get more bikes, more walking. You can socially distance and still walk through. So yeah, this is our chance to say, hey, let's find a better way. And New York has made some big changes where they're moving where the parking is. There are fewer lanes. The bicycle lanes are now protected instead of in the street with the traffic. So yeah, this is the chance to do it better.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Make our cities and our neighborhoods, our whatever, even one of my personal pet peeves, and I'm sorry, another 30 seconds. I drive through residential neighborhoods here because it was work at one point. I've driven through every residential part of San Diego. There isn't one neighborhood that isn't packed full of cars on the street. And I want to go a step further. The garage door is open. It's packed to the ceiling with boxes. Maybe there's a workshop in one side. There's one car in the driveway and there's two cars in the street out front.
Oh God. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, it's great, but don't think that free parking was free. You paid for it. And you've got a neighborhood where, kids are going to run out behind cars maybe and get hurt. We got all kinds of stuff going on because we have too many cars and our streets aren't designed for humans. They're just designed for cars, nothing else. And that's
We
tragic.
paid for the asphalt. We pay for the snow clearing. We pay for the maintenance, like Russell said. We pay for the cleaning. And one person is allowed to take up 10 feet of space or 15 or, whatever. Yeah.
Anytime they want.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about something sunnier. Paul
Yeah.
has a story about some community.
Yeah, I just want to touch about, and we've talked about it before in the show, community solar. So obviously on the road to EVs is how to power them, and solar is a great fit versus big utility power. And I'm going to share my screen here in a minute, but one of the problems with solar is not everybody can do solar. You don't own your roof faces the wrong way, there's trees. So I was a little saddened this week when Colorado, which started community solar about 10 years ago, is no longer the leader in community solar. Minnesota is now the leading state in deployment of community solar, where they have no sun and cold 10 months of the year. But the cool thing is you live in a condo, you have trees around your property, you can buy solar panels in a community solar farm, and that energy comes off your electric bill. And it's a really neat way to buy solar. I actually have had it for many years. I live in an apartment complex in Colorado. I don't own my roof, but I have 11 panels somewhere in a field, and my net meter is basically zero.
Wow.
And it's really cool not giving money to the big utility company. I'm going to share my screen just to show you. And I just want people to think, you're thinking about electric cars? Well, think about community solar if you cannot do solar on your own property. Oops, wrong screen. Where are we here? Here it is. So this is a chart showing as of Q1 this year. You can see here Minnesota is booming in the deployment.
Wow.
And then New York, Massachusetts, and then unfortunately Colorado's down here. But other states should be doing this. And, you know, obviously in some states, big utility fights this, but other states, they embrace it. And I don't know if anybody has any political power in the state you live in, but definitely consider it. Another benefit to community solar is you don't need to install anything on your property. You don't need any permits. You don't need to upgrade your panel. If your panels generate 1,000 kilowatt hours, they just take 1,000 kilowatt hours off your bill. So it's real simple. Scrolling down here, this is one source says that only 51% of households could actually do regular solar. So that's basically half the market is gone. So that's about all I want to say is consider community solar if it's available where you live. It's a cool thing.
So
It's
my
like
wife and
Minnesota's giving you
I,
guys something.
yeah. So my wife and I vacationed in Boulder, I think a couple of times. And, you know, one of those times, Paul loaned us one of his Gen 1 Priuses from Boulder Hybrids. Thank you very much. And as we were driving from Boulder to the Denver airport, we swung by a few neighborhoods on the northern side of Denver. And Denver, and Paul, you could probably, you know, expand on it, but Denver was growing very far north, like almost blurring the line between Denver and Boulder. And one of the communities that we stopped at that was still building, one of their attractions was community solar. And it was that each unit didn't necessarily have solar on it, but the community collectively was solar. And I just thought that was such a cool concept that
There's some economies of
this,
scale. They can
yeah,
name them right. They can maintain them. They can wash them, you know. So yeah. Cool
yeah.
stuff.
I mean, so this whole concept of community solar is something that is out there and it exists and it's such a great thing, but so few people have heard of it. I would like to think that it will become more prevalent in the in societal consciousness as we move forward.
Right. And
Yeah.
for someone like myself, if I move to another property in the region, I just move my credits to that property. So it's not like, well, geez, I can't sell my home to someone who doesn't want solar panels because my price is too high. You know, I just take my energy with me. So it's a very portable product.
Like
That
the
is
guy I
pretty
bought my
cool.
house from, where he had to give them away for free.
Right. Yeah, because like in Boulder, that's an asset. If you're selling a home with solar on your roof, it's more desirable. But in a lot of
Yeah.
parts of the country, I don't want to pay a premium for solar panels. Ah, that's stupid stuff. Yeah, so.
Right, right.
It really depends more on the buyer in a lot of in a lot of cases. I mean, yeah, you just get some buyers that just I don't want to pay for it. I don't think it's great, you know.
Worth it. Yeah.
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 Okay.
What's wrong
Here's
with
one of the,
Here's
yeah.
your
utility
$600 a month utility bill. Oh,
Yeah. So many of the ones
Yeah.
in my area were leased, that they couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that this one was paid free and clear. Like, oh, I don't want to pay anybody else. I don't want a second mortgage. It's in your first mortgage.
nice.
So
And one
yeah,
of
one
the
of
And I
these
things,
know
other
Patrick has solar. I mean,
yeah.
it's really nice getting zero, or my bill is typically $6 a month because of the
Nice.
billing fee that they have
Yeah.
to generate.
So I do have solar, like you said, but with 2 electric vehicles, and we have heated floors that so we can get some that uses electricity. That we have a koi pond with a pump that's using electricity. So I'm not at zero, even though my roof is full. I can't fit anymore. So community solar might be an option for me to take it all the way down to zero.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Some of your utility
And-
doesn't let you
and
not do
help-
both.
And help build out your community infrastructure, which is cool.
Yeah.
So if you live in Minnesota, New York, Massachusetts, or Colorado, there's lots of opportunities for it, and other states coming soon.
There you go. Well, our next topic allegedly has this panelist, and I'm going to quote her, frothing at the mouth. I can't wait to see her angry. Georgia, I'm standing back.
That's not fair because you're gonna get you do anger so much better than I do.
Oh,
But,
I don't know about that.
but this article should make every one of us angry, particularly those of us who are dedicated to sustainability, and for those of us who would really like a law enforcement community in the United States that doesn't think that they should beat people with sticks just because they say stop shooting unarmed people. But here's the nexus of environmental justice and civil justice like this, because The Guardian has an article about an investigation done by the Public Accountability Initiative, and it's revealing that some of our favorite oil giants that you know and love and have witnessed them polluting all over our country are also funding police foundations, including sitting on the boards of things like the Detroit Police Foundation. So we've got donations to the tune of millions by Chevron, Shell, Marathon Petroleum. Same people who are poisoning water on Native American reservations, dumping their waste in the communities of color, are also funding police foundations where some of the most egregious attitudes towards nonviolent tactics in dealing with unarmed people, and the worst attitudes towards respecting and following orders by their civilian leadership. As I pay full attention to what Police Benevolent Association members say on media about the people telling them to just kind of, I don't know, cut it out with the kidnappings of people protesting peacefully. So if there
Are
is
you
anything,
sure
what?
these fine, upstanding, admirable fossil fuel owners are funding violence? I don't believe it. I don't. These people work so
I
hard
crush your head. I crush your head. I mean, look,
my sarcasm is dripping.
dripping. I mean, you have Exelon here, Chicagoans, Exelon. They had to pay $20 million over 50 years, which you know is not enough for the pollution in Chesapeake Bay. People, they donate to police foundations all over the Midwest, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, Washington. And then, of course, everyone's favorite bank, Wells Fargo.
Ugh.
Yeah, so
It's
that was
just
me.
a who's who. Yeah, it's a who's who of really shitty organizations and shitty people melted together, handing out money to where you have police officers being trained with warrior training or Force Science Institute training, which literally teaches them that at no point on their job are they safe from anyone who isn't a cop, whether they're running away, unarmed, underage, or what have you. It increases the paranoia of officers. It teaches them to be above the law. Every single 70s cop show and movie of a loose cannon cop who doesn't follow the rules is what we have now en masse. And it is a very dangerous situation for any democracy, especially a democracy like ours, where a lot of what we think is codified into law is actually more of a gentleman's agreement in democracy. And we have elected a lot of non-gentlemen, and we've put a lot of non-gentlemen on the streets with the badge and the gun, and we got a little problem. And so for all these companies to be funding it, what the fuck, you guys? So if there is ever a reason for you to go solar, have an electric car, do what you can for sustainability to cut these people off at the fucking...
Okay.
I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I think you did it very elegantly, Georgia. I would have just
Yeah.
been franty and people would have turned me out like 30 seconds into it.
But I highly recommend you go to The Guardian and read through The Guardian's article on this, and then click the link and go to, that is the Public Accountability Initiative, and take a look at that and see, are you banking at Wells Fargo? Do you actually have an account with any of these energy companies, what can you do? Because you might be able to, as a consumer, affect them more directly than, but just knowing that your money is going to fund things that you disagree with, that should put a little fire in your pants to make you do something. All right, and I'm done because I can't look at it anymore.
Yeah, so
It's
I've
almost
plugged
like
the Drilled podcast on here a couple times before, and this
Yeah.
is another example. They have talked about how these organizations, fossil fuel industry, they are funneling money through shell companies and nonprofits, and then they're using that to fund disinformation campaigns. And part of the funding to the police, is my understanding from this, is that it is also talking about any group that is an environmental group as eco-terrorists, and how the police need to be, here's how to taser a hippie. And here's the taser to do it. We're funding it. And they're, so just like they're poisoning our air, they're poisoning the water, they're poisoning minds with their propaganda. They are not good neighbors.
Yep.
And then, if you're in one of the disadvantaged communities already, now there's somebody to come shoot and beat you to take care of the rest of what's left of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the disadvantaged communities are certainly where a lot of the pollution happens. You're certainly not going to build a coal plant in the backyard of a rich neighborhood. They have too much political power to stop that. And so it's
Or the
disadvantaged
semi-truck
communities where
route
the
through Bel Air.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so the
And
diesel
why-
buses again, someone else who's been on the show was recently posted a refinery from their house. They can see them spewing out pollution all day.
And why does Chevron, of all companies, need to be a corporate sponsor of the New Orleans Police and a board member of the Houston Police Foundation and board of the Salt Lake City Police Foundation? I mean, Shell is on the New Orleans Police Foundation and a sponsor of Houston's police mounted patrol.
I
It's
bet you if you
called
look at where the
protection
refineries
money.
are, yeah, if you look at where the refineries are, there's going to be a relationship.
I'm gonna speak on this as somebody who's worked in government. And one of the biggest issues right now, currently affecting us via elections, is we are looking to make sure that people elect DAs who promise not to take police money. Police foundations, police union money, PBAs. The reason why you don't get DAs really targeting the police when police commit crimes, and you have things like test-a-lying, which is when police sit on the stand and actually lie on the record about a case. The evidence clearly points out that the police are lying, and they get up, go home, and they have a dinner. Because a lot of times, if a DA or a judge is elected and they're getting money from these police foundations, why can't we take Trump out? Because why can't you perp bar? Well, when you own the judiciary and when you own the executive branch and half the legislative branch of Congress, you kind of get to do whatever the hell it is you want until there's a clear mandate to get rid of you. And that's not just Twitter, it's not just protests. It really legally is supposed to be the vote. Now we'll see what happens. The micro and the macro are like this. They do mirror each other. And when these companies are able to sit on the boards and they are able to talk to their buddies on the boards, which they go out and they golf with and they have dinners, and they share money, and then that money trickles into judiciary races, it trickles into city council races, it trickles into DA races. All seats are important in an election. And they figured that out a long time ago. We're just waking up to it. So they buy minimal suits when they are found out to, I don't know, PG&E. How many people did they kill in San Francisco with their negligence? And they're still doing it? Didn't they just destroy a town, a year ago or more? And yet, what do they walk away with? Maybe 100 million, 50 million in damages. No executive ever goes to jail. And they never pay the full amount of restitution that they owe. What is a life worth? There is not one damn dime a company has made that can pay back for both the allowance of police brutality and death in communities and the absolute destruction of our environment and the destruction of our infrastructure and homes and people because they could not spend the money to update. They were too busy getting themselves bonuses for being great executives.
And
Like I said, rant
I
down.
want to point out that we use the word police sponsorship. They get the lion's share of every municipality budget. Why do they need fucking sponsors like NASCAR?
Right, right. So, Mark, have you opened up a Southern Burger yet?
That's
Not
for
a
a friend.
I'm just curious, Mark, have you actually put a price on what it would cost to adopt any one of us?
There are parts of
I just
Canada
wanna
with
point
some
out,
fossil
I
fuel
cook.
industry too.
Oh,
my
you can
my
adopt
advice, my advice is to apply for citizenship early and often.
I have some
See,
skills.
Georgia already has us beat there. What do you have? Do you have dual citizenship?
No, I had to rescind one. I got my citizenship August, and literally by February of this year, I was just going, shit.
See,
Knew I had to stay and fight, but still, motherfucking resident.
But now, Georgia, you can vote in the selection.
I know, and that is the only reason why I got my citizenship. Swear to God. But I'll be a citizen one full year this August. That'll be my end of my citiversary.
But I'm in Illinois, which means I can vote multiple times.
oh,
That's what they tell
Only
us.
if you're only if you have the special mob card.
nice,
Right.
nice. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. I want to say thanks to all the panelists. Let's do some shout outs and go home. I'm going to start with, once again, my favorite branded panelist tonight, Mr. Casey Green.
Hi. So I've got a video I just put out today about all the complaints that people say, oh, electric cars aren't practical, you can't charge them, you can't take road trips, blah, blah, blah. Same story you've heard a million times. So check that out at youtube.com/Casey, K-A-C-E-Y, Green, at youtube.com/Casey Green. And it's right up there. This one was called something like charging a Tesla or other EV is easy, something to that effect.
Look for the little Casey logo. There we go.
Nice.
Thank you. Once again, I get to use my favorite phrase. He's our man on the front range, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Just if you're on the front range or in the front range, I guess you'd say, and you need your hybrid or EV service, check us out at boulderhc.com. If you're looking for a used car, boulderh.com. That's all I got.
There you go. And he'll do the best after sales service, unlike those evil dealers.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, wait, I meant that actually. I don't know why I had to shun from that. Georgia.
Yes, sir. Shout out to you, to all our viewers who are here to hit like and subscribe, because we know you want to do that. And a reminder, we are still collecting funds to help with the GoFundMe for our new machine so we can keep the show going, because otherwise it's going to get really hairy when we have to just kind of feed some chipmunks some coffee beans and put them in like those little wheels to kind of run the drive. So
Do you know
please
how much
give-
coal it takes to produce this show right now? Okay. And
Don't
I have
go
to
there.
pay 4 5-year-olds to shovel that coal. So
that's what, like a nickel? Come on.
I know, but shh. Back to Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia. I just had to interject with that.
So once again, hit like, subscribe, and while you're at it, toss a $5 into the can. Hey, toss $1 into the can, and help us get that new laptop for the show. And also, big shout out to everybody hanging in there during this thing and wearing your freaking masks and hydrating. No, not vodka. Stop that.
No.
I can? Oh, that hurts.
Right.
Patrick, save me.
All right. I want to say happy birthday to Casey. Happy birthday, Casey.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
speaking of birthdays, yesterday Model 3 turned 3. And if you haven't seen it, we did a live show of the reveal of that car. And it was awesome. We were talking about how it was going to be a game changer. When we saw the reservation numbers, how this has got to be a wake-up call to the rest of the industry. And, you know, the word game changer is thrown around a lot. But now we're 3 years away from it, and it really has changed a whole lot. It's changed the whole view on what electric cars can be. And so congratulations to the Model 3 and to Tesla for that a big achievement. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Mr. Coughlin.
If you have interest in Tesla and would like to hear more stories or information about the company, feel free to join us weekly on The Tesla Life. You can follow us at The Tesla Life on our Twitter feed, as well as Facebook, Tesla Life #1, and of course the YouTube channel, which we just did a show today. So we hope to see you over there as well.
Definitely support the Tesla Life and do follow them on Twitter because that's the hot Twitter feed. Let's see. Tony Schaefer?
Hey, what do you know about that? So,
Tony Schaefer.
Yeah, so we've mentioned the GoFundMe that we have, and but so I want to shout the current technology that we're using to produce this show and some of our behind the scenes staff. So I want to give a shout out to the people behind the scenes who are making the show possible. And
Like
so this
Edith
is
and Wilma there. Yeah.
We
This
have
is
a
Edith.
diverse workforce.
Yes. We have 2 shades of white. So you can see Edith and Wilma, they're plugging in the cables to make sure that the proper show is being routed to YouTube versus Spotify and Facebook and
It's the
whatnot.
NEO
So
500.
it's something. 500, that's way above our budget. This is the 250. So, okay, I wanted to put that out. So I don't know where you're getting the show. If you're getting it on video and you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification, and give the show a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps our analytics. So this is the cheapest, easiest, freest thing you can do for the show is to give the show a thumbs up, and it sends Google the message that people are watching our shows, and it bumps us up in the ranking. And if you are listening to the audio podcast, thank you very much. And there, make sure you subscribe, and you'll always get more shows. We mentioned at the beginning of the hour some of the new shows that are going to be coming out. You're going to start seeing those dropped in the audio podcasts. Make sure you check those out. So if you're accustomed to listening to one of our shows per week, you're going to start getting 2 or 3 of them a week. So buckle up. You're going to have a lot of listening ahead of you.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
That's it. The ride's only getting rougher. We have great new stuff on the RAV4 Prime coming up. And as I said, more episodes of Transport Treehouse with Chelsea Sexton that are wonderful. I guarantee it. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for our theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Please go buy a song or something to support him as he supports us. I want to thank everybody on this amazing panel, George McKenzie, Patrick Connor, Mark Coughlin, Casey Green, Paul Guzik, and of course, my wingman, Mr. Tony Schaefer. Thank you so much. And of course, look at that big cat. What is that? Oh, big kitty. Okay. Little shout out from the kitty cat. And of course, we do this show for all of you who will hopefully be subscribing on YouTube and maybe kicking us $1 on GoFundMe. I'll say please one more time. Tune in next week if you want to find out what drives us. Was that Shatner-esque enough?
It was pretty good. Pregnant pause.
I was really trying for that. See you next week, everybody. Have a great time.
Stay charged. Stay safe.
Go Hawks.